Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Good, Bad, and Ugly of Business. I'm your host, Catryn Becker. On this podcast, we talk to experts from all different fields, industries, professions, you name it, because we want to learn what they've learned in their career that's made them so successful. Because we believe that while a smart person learns from their mistakes, a genius learns from the mistakes of others. And along that vein, we want to learn what they've learned so we can either avoid the mistakes completely or we can learn to fail faster. My guest today has an amazing background coming from a stage actor to becoming a storytelling and speaking coach so that you can help find your authentic voice and be able to promote yourself in the way that you truly feel on the inside. So, Dayna Kneeland, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you because I think it's not everybody that is afraid of speaking, but it is a very common fear that people have.
It
So,
is so common.
it's interesting. I have a 9-year-old and she's a ham. She's just a natural performer. And so we've had her she's done some plays and done some things on stage. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, she's like, Mom, I can't do it. I'm scared. I'm afraid. I've got stage fright. It's like, wait a minute. Who told you to have stage fright? Where did it come from? So it's such a curious topic. I'd love to know how you came to be a storytelling coach.
Well, it sort of started being a stage actor myself, but I fell in love with teaching very early into my career. And I had a pivotal moment actually where I was on stage in front of 300, 400 people in the hot lights. And I had been cast for the first time as a narrator. And so I did not have the sense of character to hide behind or a scene partner to be in dialogue with. All of a sudden, it was close to a public speaking experience. It was just me connecting to the audience. And I was doing a horrible job, a really bad job. My director was so frustrated with me. She was this very fiery woman with like piercing eyes, and she'd lean in and she'd be like, Dayna, stop moving around. Stop trying to act. I want you to just stand there and speak from your heart. And I couldn't do it. And so by the time opening night came, I was really nervous and I was mortified about being nervous because I was, a professional. But there I am, like expected to go on stage and really wow people. And I was just sweating buckets. I was nervous in this way I'd never experienced in my own nervous system, public speaking in front of people. But I had some tools because I came from this background. So I knew how to regulate my body and warm up my voice. And this show started, and I really was just kind of like going through the paces, where you're just sort of there, but not fully there. And then all of a sudden there was this moment where I really looked out and I was delivering this speech, this story about the lived experience of war. And I
Mm.
look into my audience, and about 2/3, maybe even more of my audience were of that generation to have lived through war. And I just had this really big shift inside of myself happen where, it felt like, all the lights get shiny and you can hear a pin drop as I'm speaking. And I realized, oh, I'm just a vehicle. Like, it's not about me. It's not about me being up there. It's not me and everything I have to say and me. It's about the listener and their experience. And I'm just a vehicle for that message. So that
Mm.
shifted something for me. I became so curious about how I went from being completely nervous to feeling completely in the present moment and having this relaxed, open, expansive experience. And I knew I wanted to teach that to others. I knew that what I had learned as an actor was part of the puzzle piece. And that there
Yeah.
was, and then of course there was this long journey of my own lived experience in my nervous system of struggling with anxiety and diving headfirst into mindfulness to overcome that. And over time, I started to have all of these different skill sets. And so when I started to teach theater in different environments, I took theater into some really marginalized communities, actually, communities of people who are overcoming so many barriers in their lives. And I started teaching theater, and they all told me, hey, this is helping me overcome my fear of public speaking. So I was like, okay, this is a real thing. And it's been a journey. Bit by bit, I realized I've been developing these skill sets that all come together to really help people to to be the vehicle for the message that they're sharing. It's really exciting because we all have a very unique contribution in the world.
Absolutely.
And we
I
need all of our
100%.
voices.
Yeah, I 100% believe that and agree with that as well. And it's interesting because for me, I did theater. I did musical theater. I did choir.
Cool.
I've been, a workshop facilitator for many, many years in my company. I do this now. I've spoken on stage to thousands. And something that, people have mentioned to me, they're like, oh my gosh, you don't look like, how can you do that? I could never do that. I was like,
Mhm.
well, why can't you do that? I get too nervous. And I was like, I'm nervous. They're like, yeah, but you don't show it. I was like, because I don't let it stop me.
Mhm.
I still get up there and do that. And it's such an interesting thing to think, at what point did we learn to be afraid?
Mhm.
Because I feel like it's a total learned behavior. I don't think children grow up being afraid to speak.
Well, there's so many factors that are in and around it. I mean, essentially, we're having this challenging thing happen in our nervous system. Like we're experiencing this rush of adrenaline, this excess cortisol, we're in fight and flight. But then that experience can be, for some people, it's very easy for them to transform that into excitement. And that takes us back into connection. And for others, it creates so much more stress and disconnect in the body. And our mindset, what our mind starts to do and the way we are talking to ourselves comes into play. And often when I'm working with clients, as we unpack that, there are those ways that we've been conditioned, or those core mindset or thought patterns that are there. And there's just these human things that are can be underneath our experience of speaking nerves, such as perfectionism,
Mm.
such as this idea that, oh, this is it, this is my only shot, I've got to get it perfect, this is my one chance. Or a lot of times I work with people who need to speak to and adjust their message to different audiences. So sometimes they're speaking to people who are senior to them, right? And so there's this, oh my goodness, I have to solve all of their problems, I have to get it perfect, this is the next step in my career. And we lose track of that in-person relationship, human to human, that's going on, or even body image, or the relationship we have with our voice and how our voice sounds. All of these different things can be at play underneath, as well as the way that we're just conditioned in our society. Oh, you have your public speaking at school. Are you worried about it? Are you
Right,
nervous?
right.
Yeah. We're not taught how to do it. We're not taught how to feel comfortable in society. We're not taught how to feel comfortable having feelings in front of
No.
people. And that's what's happening. We can't avoid that. There's a lot of sensation happening in the body. There are a lot of feelings present when we're public speaking.
It's really interesting because there's so much that we're not taught.
So much.
Like taught about being like a human, being alive, like living this experience. Yet, we know our algebra and we know proper sentence structure and we know the history of World War II, but the point of living sometimes is missed in what we're taught. It's such an interesting
Absolutely.
phenomenon.
It is.
But one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you, I love what you were mentioning about how you need to, or how you suggest adjusting your message so that you can be reaching the correct person, or even like the different styles that people hear information differently. Like it's very
Mhm.
common, people talk about love languages, that
Mhm.
people can receive and experience love differently. And I think that's just an extenuation of communication as it
Mhm.
is. I'd love to know your thoughts on this.
Yes. Well, what comes to mind immediately is your learning and processing style. And so I think that can come up in terms of how you're going to receive information as an audience, but also in identifying your speaking strengths and the challenges that might come up for you as a speaker. So one really big misconception that we have is that if you're extroverted, you're going to naturally be a stronger speaker, but it's not necessarily true. We have different types of speaking styles. So, when we get clear and know what is the way that I learn best, then we can really maximize and capitalize on that. And then once we have that understanding in ourselves and we're recognizing that, we can start to tune in and go, okay, what is going to help my audience to really receive this information? And there's some really simple questions we can ask ourselves as we're preparing to really set ourselves up for success around that. Like, what do they need? What does that person, it is a real person, what do they need? Getting really genuinely curious about that. What do they already know about what we're talking about, so that we know where to meet them with what we're sharing? And what are the concerns? We're humans, we have these concerns, we have these kind of blocks, or like, oh, I'm not sure about that. If you can think through that and really address all of that for your listener, then you're helping them to really receive the information. And then we all receive information differently. You're going to have audience members who are really detailed, and they'll have a ton of questions. They'll help you. They'll let you know what you want, what they want you to say. And you'll have quieter audiences, or people that really want the big picture. And then there are things that are just so common as human beings in what makes something memorable, such as a story. Right. So that tool of storytelling comes in as such a powerful component as a speaker, if it fits in for what you're talking about, because we relate to stories. All of us relate to stories. They connect directly into emotion. And even if we're a really technical minded person, or we're a big picture person, everyone connects to that story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like our bodies and brains, our minds have evolved to
Mm-hmm.
have stories as tools for remembering things. You think about there's an author that I love. Her name is Allison A. Armstrong, and she's got a seminar called Understanding Women. And
Mm.
it's a great audiobook. And she talks about how women needed to, like, the reason that sometimes we can be so verbose is because we needed to be able to tell the other ones where to find the berries.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to make sure it's the berries that are this high and have this color, and not the berries by the river. Those are poisonous. Those will kill you. All this information that we have to communicate. And it's such a great and humorous way that she explains it. So I love recommending her to clients. Um,
Yes, I love that.
for men and for women, because I think it's important to just have a deeper understanding of oneself, is always a useful thing. There's a group that I'm part of where real estate investor group, where people come in and they pitch their deals. And it's so interesting because you can tell the people that haven't practiced at
Mm-hmm.
all, and it comes off as so stiff and wooden. And when they start getting questions, they don't know the answer to it, and then they get flustered, and then they start flubbing their words, and oh, it's a disaster. So I can completely see how someone in business who may think, oh, I don't do public speaking, quote unquote, having you in their corner is still helpful.
It's so true. There's so many different ways that we are engaged in public speaking. We're not all going to get up on a TEDx stage. I probably won't. That's not my passion is to teach. I really love working right with people, training, coaching. And we don't all have to be up on a big podium to be public speaking. We could be leading a team. We can be delivering bad news. We can
Mm,
be pitching our idea. We can be connecting with a customer about our brand through our business, our origin story of our business. We can be teaching, facilitating, having conversations, getting on podcasts and talking about what we do, talking about the things that are important, what our contribution is, the things that we want to add value to in our communities. There's so many different avenues for public speaking.
yeah, very, very true. So switching gears a little bit, this is
Hmm.
called the good, bad, and ugly of
Yes.
business. So I want to go a little bit deeper on what your journey has been. Um,
Hmm.
Being a stage actor is very different. You're taking direction, right?
Hmm.
You have the script provided, you have the director giving you the notes, you have the person, laying out the scene and everything. And now you're a solopreneur and you're creating that world yourself. What has that been like for you?
Oh, well, it's been very exciting. I mean, I absolutely love the creating aspect of it. And then, of course, challenging. We have so many different hats. I now have skills in all of these technical areas, and designing and getting behind my website and all of these things that I never thought I would learn ever before. And I love and also feel challenged being a business owner just by how much personal growth I need to go through. If I come across a block inside myself, it's really, I need to figure out my way through that. So I need to really look at my strengths and my weaknesses and really be committed to growing in all of those areas that are required to have a successful business.
So can you, let's bring it back to storytelling. Can you give
Yes.
us some examples? Tell us a story about maybe a specific aspect of one of those weaknesses that you needed to work through.
Well, it took me a long time to start my business. And so, being an actor and sort of having that lens of, oh, I remember being in grade 8 and taking a career aptitude test. My mom said, I came in and I said, I have good news and bad news. Good news is that I really know who I am in this world and I really know what I'm here to do. And there's all of these wonderful choices for me where I can go and I can teach and I can entertain people and work with people and use my gifts in communication. And the bad news is I'm going to be really, really poor. And so that starving artist idea was really entrenched in me. And so having the confidence to even start my business was a big deal for me. And I'll never forget the day that I was sitting in my living room and the whole place was just littered with flip chart paper. And a really close friend of mine, we were like high on our chai lattes, and she was helping me hash out the next idea I had for a project. I was going to, be using theater to help people find their voice and take it in, and some little grant and some little pocket of money. And she looked at me with all these ideas and she's like, enough is enough.
Mm.
You have been helping people find their voice and use storytelling to connect with people for decades. That's it. I've had it. It's time for you to start a business. You need to go and do this. And it just landed. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. It is. And that was a huge pivotal moment for me. But it doesn't mean that it just happened overnight for me. It's really been a process of really needing to believe in my capacity to do that. And I think, and I think as a woman to really, really land and like get comfortable taking up space with my gifts
Mm.
and really standing firm in I'm this is financially a financial value for my community, right? It was so exciting to kind of start to step into that more and really grow as a business owner in that way. And yeah, because I think as women we often have these strengths that are valued. It's like, oh, you're so compassionate or you're a great communicator, wonderful. That's a great added value to what we want you to do in this role. But all of those incredible strengths that we have that we've developed aren't necessarily seen as a real financial asset. And I think that's what's really changing now is that we're starting to see that these strengths of creativity and communication and compassion and being able to collaborate with people, all of these things that are so important and intrinsic to being a business owner are of financial value. Those are really of worth, and we can really step into that with some strength and some conviction.
It's lovely what you said there, just specifically talking about from the female perspective,
Mhm.
because there is a difference to that.
Mhm.
Um, I think especially growing up for women, if a woman, a young girl, when we're young, is seen as being more self-assured, she's labeled bossy,
Mhm.
or we're labeled the B word, right? I mean, there's so many negative connotations for women being powerful and having a voice. So I really feel like there's a lot of society that kind of there's a pressure that's there, and it's just an interesting challenge that women face.
And it's really a theme that's coming up more and more with my clients of the challenge that women or women identified speakers are feeling in male dominated environments, and to really feel confident that they have a strong voice to bring forward, or how do I speak in a way that I will be heard. I
Yes.
gave a great idea 2 weeks ago and then a man got credit for it. I'm sitting there watching a man get credit for an idea that I shared 2 weeks ago. How do I do that? And so it's always really exciting for me to support women to find their authentic voice of authority, because it doesn't have to match and compete with another speaking style that might be more of a go-to for a male-identified speaker. And not to say that we all have different strengths in that. So it's not just male or female. It could be a more of a masculine approach or a feminine approach, or more of an introverted or extroverted approach. But there's a skill set that can make someone a very impactful speaker that has to do with being able to make an emotional connection.
Mm.
And so there's this kind of two-part skill that really makes you an impactful speaker. One is you can actually make that connection inside yourself to really connect deeply to yourself, to what you're saying and the meaning that it holds, and then to your listeners. And some people are very good at making that emotional connection, and others are good at like letting it out to be received. And we sort of need those two parts. And so when I help somebody who has a natural ability to make that emotional connection, know how to really use that and how to do that and wield that, then they can find their voice of authority in a way that still has nuance or subtlety,
Mm.
that still holds that compassionate place of listening that you might be bringing in as you are speaking strength. And that's exciting, because it's almost just helping us to make that mind shift to really understand that my strengths are a speaking strength, and I can lean on that and come and bring that forth in the world. I don't have to get out there and be as loud or as heard by a traditional extroverted masculine approach.
And it does go both ways. I mean, not to exclude the males. I mean, there's definitely men that suffer and experience stage fright as well, or fear of public speaking. So it's definitely both. Obviously, we're both women, so we're coming from our experience and place of it. And I really think the crux of it goes back to something you said in the very beginning, and it comes back to ego. And I think there's a difference between your ego and your authentic self, and being able to identify the difference, because when we can speak from a place of authenticity, I feel that's where the authority comes from.
Mm.
So I'd love to know your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I agree with you 100% that, yeah, if we look at it just between men or women, it becomes too polarized, and we have so many different types of strengths and that come in as a speaker. And so this idea of finding your authenticity through well, I always come back to the voice itself. It's our whole body. It's our body is our voice. So to really be communicating in an authentic way, we want to be congruent with what we're feeling, the way we intend to come across, and the way we're actually coming across, our body language. And so so when we can connect into a particular strength that we have, we're letting go of all of the ideas that we have of what we're supposed to be doing, right? So, I always say the last thing that I ever want somebody to be doing is to go in and be going in with a running to-do list of like, oh, when I need to do this, and now I need to stand up straight, now I need to do this, that checklist that's running through our mind all the time. That's in my language, that's the mind, or that's the ego just driving everything. Oh my goodness, we're just thinking, thinking, thinking. And that's endless. It will never stop. We'll always keep thinking, going down another rabbit hole. Oh my goodness, now I need to do this and do that. And that's not going to help us to land in our body where we actually produce sound from or make an emotional connection or find that place of comfort standing a little taller so that we can actually physically take up a little bit more space in an open, relaxed way, or make the eye contact that we need to have a genuine connection, or to drop into that sense of our awareness where we have genuine curiosity about the person that we're speaking with, rather than having our mind run and run and run in the background. So that's what comes to mind when you ask that question.
Yeah. Well, and I like to think about the voice as, especially like our actual voice box, right? In our throat. It's halfway between our heart and our brain.
Mm,
Right. So it takes both pieces. Like we need the logical brain piece. We need the feeling and emotions from the heart. And that's when it comes out and it's in this balance in a way that people can understand. But then that also brings me to the old adage of there's a reason that we have two ears and only one mouth, that we need to be listening twice as much as we're
Mm.
speaking. So I would love to know if that's a component of what it is that you're teaching and helping people to listen as well as how to speak.
Hmm. It sure is. I have to say that a lot of my clients are introverted processors who are coming to and gaining more confidence about that particular speaking strength. So the first thing that comes to mind is just to recognize that if you are introverted in the way you process and you learn, you probably do naturally have strong listening skills.
Hmm.
So really recognizing that, and then and then there's that deeper layer of listening where we're able to listen not just with our mind, but also to listen more intuitively and to respond, and so really to be able to take in what we hear and let that come out from an authentic place, rather than just where have already decided what we're going to say, rather than really stopping and listening and letting that tune in.
Right. As we're wrapping things up, what are some of the main misconceptions that people have before they're working with you on what your services will provide or why they would need
Hmm.
something that like you offer?
Well, some people do think that I get both ends of the spectrum. Some people think it's going to take forever to really find a change and experience a change, and that they're not sure that they really have that in them, that potential to really make a market change. Whereas I see such rapid changes with my clients, all of them after working together. And then another really big misconception is that it will be just boom, it's going to happen really fast for you. And so they'll come in and they'll want me to give them those tips, those quick tips and tricks that are going to solve everything overnight. And it's not about quick tips and tricks. It's about it's about finding some skills that are really specific to you and are going to work for you and complement your strengths and your learning style. And those skills become anchors. So they're things that you can embody. So they're in you and they're transferable across all different speaking environments, rather than that ongoing to-do list. And
Hmm.
so that's a really big misconception, that it's just going to happen and boom, 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 just like that. However, that said, I do have some clients who work with me just for a short period of time because they come in and they have a really targeted focus, or they want some help with a specific message, or they just want a little bit of practice to polish something up, or to have some practice to really reach their audience with greater impact. And then usually clients who have a more struggle with speaking nerves will work with me for a little bit longer.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate you being here and sharing this. This has been really great. For those listening, I know you want to reach out and work with her because we can all learn to be better speakers, better communicators. So, how can people reach out to you? How can they work with you?
Yes, you can. Well, I'm excited to share that I offer a free Speak with Confidence assessment. And so that's a 45-minute session where I sit down with you and we go through 10 different public speaking competencies. And I help you to really identify where you're at with each of those competencies. We go through three different categories: sort of your presence as a speaker, and your vocal power, and a sense of speaking with purpose, and the specific messages that you might be speaking with and sharing. And it'll help you to really know what your strengths are and where your growing edges are. So that's a great way to reach out. And I've got a link. I don't know if that's possible to share, but it's assessment/daynakneeland.com/assessment. But you can find me through my name, Dayna with a Y, Kneeland like the body part, like a knee and land.com.
I will definitely have the links for everyone, but it's great for our audio learners to hear it as well. So, is there anything else that you would like to share before we go?
No, it's been great to be here with you. Thanks so much. I've had a great time.
I have too, and I'm excited. I want to get this assessment done. That sounds like
I'd love that. I'd love that.
that would be fun. Maybe we'll record it. It'll be a follow up to this episode.
Sure.
We can demonstrate your secret sauce. Well, thank you again so much, Dayna, for being here.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thanks so much.
And for the listeners, thank you for being here. This is not possible without you, and I appreciate you so very much. If there's something that you are curious about and you would like to have another episode, please let me know what it is. And if you liked this episode, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'd love to have you. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.